For many years online, fans have debated the differences between the mighty Power Rangers and their Japanese counterparts, Super Sentai.
Sure, they both got giant monsters and funny, cheesy catchphrases, but there's more than meets the eye.
Power Rangers and Super Sentai, two iconic franchises deeply rooted in the realm of superhero teams and tokusatsu action, have captivated audiences worldwide for decades. While both series share the common themes of teamwork, heroism, and battling evil, they originate from different cultures with distinct storytelling approaches and visual styles.
And I feel like understanding the similarities and the differences could help fans of both shows. We're always in a competition of, oh, Power Rangers is better, oh, Sentai is better. Even though I don't think there's many people that say Power Rangers is better, but I totally think that we should appreciate both of these series and see how they evolved and resonated globally with diverse audiences. So grab your morphers, whether it's a watch or a belt buckle or a little flimsy sword, and let's talk about the differences and similarities of both Power Rangers and Super Sentai.
Difference number 1, origin.
Now, Super Sentai was first bought up back all the way in 1975 by the Toei Company.
It's known for its team of colorful heroes fighting against evil organizations to protect the Earth, starting with the team and show that is Himutsu Sentai Go Ranger. This series and the ones that follow lay the groundwork for the Tokusatsu genre, which focuses on practical special effects and is a beloved staple of Japanese pop culture.
And there was this guy one day, you might know him, his name is Haim Saban, who saw the Super Sentai series during a trip to Japan and eventually made Power Rangers that started in 1993 and by Saban's own company, Saban Entertainment.
This led to the creation of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in 1993, and this adaptation used footage from the Super Sentai series Kuryu Sentai Ju Ranger, while combining some new scenes with American actors. Taking out the devil aspects and making the Yellow Ranger a girl, Power Rangers would quickly become a cultural phenomenon of its own, spawning many series, films, comics, and merchandise while maintaining the essence of teamwork and heroism inspired by its Japanese predecessor.
And Super Sentai has been going non-stop for over 48 seasons now, while Power Rangers has been cancelled multiple times, but it's been around for like 30. And also, by the way, it's one of the longest running American TV shows ever in life.
But Power Rangers has been running alongside Super Sentai since its creation, having its adaptation be 1 year apart from the Super Sentai series, and it wasn't until the 2010s when certain shows and seasons were not adapted at all, but they still always found new ways to innovate. Difference number 2, storylines.
So beyond having the similar suits, monsters, mecha, etc., how do these shows differentiate from each other? Well, it all starts with the themes and stories told by each show.
Super Sentai is known to have more complex characters, having them visually evolve from episode to episode, through the many ways of friendship, sacrifice, and personal growth.
This makes Super Sentai, in the eyes of a Western audience, more mature than Power Rangers.
Super Sentai also often features distinct themes and settings that reflect Japanese culture, mythology, and society, while Power Rangers tries to adapt these things into a Western context, often altering or simplifying cultural references.
In Power Rangers, the growth that happens in the show, thanks to culture and localization, can sometimes be lost in the sauce.
The development that some of these Rangers have can be forgotten in the next episode, as most focus episodes in Power Rangers have a Ranger act out of character and the plot resolves them around learning a lesson.
But I will say that ever since the beginning, Power Rangers has always been diverse. And with this diverse cast, you can touch on many different cultural topics. As usually, shows like Power Rangers takes place in a small town, a local high school, and sometimes a tech facility or a CGI world. Because, sometimes you got teen drama in space. It happens. Comment question of the day, or a command. I'm giving a command. Put in the comments down below one good thing about Power Rangers and Super Sentai, and then put one bad thing about Power Rangers and Super Sentai. What, compares and contrasts them. Let's get some good debate in there, alright? And leave a like to lock in your answer. 2,000 likes. I'll do more videos just like this one.
Difference number 3, continuity.
Now, Power Rangers has its own set of rules, its own timeline. For the first 6 seasons of the show, it was always in the great Californian city of Angel Grove. But after season 6, the show became a little bit more independent by having the show take place in many different cities. But the series would still have crossovers and returning characters to really sell that all these Power Ranger teams are in the same universe, especially when it is a common element that their power all comes from the same place, and that is the Morphin Grid. Now, Super Sentai has it set so every season is independent by itself, with having their powers not really coming from a Morphin Grid, but for their own individual reason for each universe that the show is in. Then again, there's always of course the yearly crossover movies, but those things are not really canon to what happens in the show.
With this independence, the series has become serialized, with each episode building on the previous one, while Power Rangers are often more episodic, with each episode telling a self-contained story, even though in more recent years, there have been a lot more serialized seasons. And Super Sentai can also do the opposite and have more episodic seasons. But Power Rangers definitely takes the cake on this one, as it famously had its own rules placed by owners, aka show creator Haim Saban, that episodes really shouldn't connect to each other.
But speaking of connections, the crossover movies, alright? Super Sentai loves doing them, and they've been loving it since the beginning.
With Jacka vs. Go Ranger in 1978, it has become a yearly tradition since O Ranger vs. Cock Ranger in 1996. And even in that Jacka and Go Ranger movie, it features references to other Toku heroes, like Kikaider and Kamen Rider V3, as well as Amazon. And with the Versus movie being a yearly event, each Sentai is guaranteed at least 2 crossover movies. But there's also been a lot of anniversary events as well, with Gao Ranger, Bokenger, Gokaiger, Zyuohger, and Zenkaiger. There has even been his own side crossover series with the Kamen Riders, that being Superhero Tyson, and even a spin-off crossover series called Super Sentai Strongest Battle.
And Power Rangers in the early years would be similar to Super Sentai in that regard, having those yearly crossovers, starting with Lost Galaxy and In Space. That moved on to Lightspeed Rescue, Time Force, Wild Force, Ninja Storm.
It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication.
Damn.
It never happened.
Dino Thunder, SPD.
But it's weird that it happened twice, right?
And then that kind of stopped. Samurai did have a crossover with the Red Ranger, but for the most part, it's been anniversary crossovers that's been a priority for Power Rangers.
Like Forever Red in 2002, Once a Ranger 2007, Legendary Battle in 2014, Dimensions in Danger in 2018, as well as 2020's Dinosaur Team Up.
And recently in Cosmic Fury, we have had our own mishmash of crossovers with a season that features a red Ninja Steel Ranger, an evil Dino Charge Ranger, and Billy, the Blue Ranger from Mighty Morphin. How the turntables.
Difference number 4, filming.
Now we've covered the fiction of the show, let's get to the non-fiction of how, it's all shot behind the scenes.
Super Sentai was originally shot on 16mm film, which many fans considered the best medium for a Tokusatsu series. And after Power Ranger, Toei made that switch being into digital cassettes, although they would still be recorded on film. And to be honest, this wasn't the best look for the show, at least at the time. And that practice continued onto Time Ranger, and from Gao Ranger onwards, it was all fully digital video, with Super Sentai also being the first of the 2 series to get into HD. And in comparison, you can definitely notice that in other seasons, like Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, where the American footage had definitely brighter colors, and the Japanese footage was a little bit more washed up due to it being an older film stock. And Power Rangers has always been using digital video cameras, so you can always tell the difference between the 2 series. This made the American footage a lot more sharper and having frame rates that just couldn't really compare to Sentai.
Are you catching up, by the way? I know this is a little tech talk, but I hope you get it. Nerd hour. Okay, but let's talk about something we all know. It's the location.
With Super Sentai, of course, always being filmed in Japan, Power Rangers had its early years shot in Los Angeles, while later seasons were filmed in New Zealand, where it was more possible to find structures and places that looked similar enough for the footage matching with the Super Sentai. Case in point, the quarry, the stadium, and many more famous locations.
And fun fact of the day, Super Sentai noticed how beautiful New Zealand looks and would actually go there to shoot some stuff for Super Sentai. Famously, the opening for Magi Ranger has some shots in New Zealand, as well as the ending from Geki Ranger.
And even though they look different, their feel and action can be the same. Power Rangers and Super Sentai use a lot of the same stuntmen, since Japan and New Zealand are relatively close to each other compared to the United States.
However, what can be confusing between the 2 shows when a character acts different than, how they are in the show.
Famous example of this is in Super Megaforce, where Joe was a badass swordsman and Noah was just a nerd. But it provides for weird moments in the show when those 2 personalities kind of collide in a way.
And for the Zords and Megazord footage, that would all be shot in Japan. The only things that the Americans would do is just cut it for time, basically. And when there has been original Zord footage, in more recent years, it's ultimately come up to CGI to fill in some of those blanks. But back in the day, they would actually get the suits from Japan just to do a pose or 2, or destroy them. They do that too, sometimes. Power Rangers and Super Sentai. I'm not flexing, but you know what I will flex? The E-Squad. Oh, that was a good one. Subscribe and ring the notification bell to join the E-Squad today. Bigger than Super Sentai and Power Rangers in the whole world, in the whole universe. Okay? E-Squad comic of the day. Leave a comment down below. It can be funny. and it might be in a video. Let's continue.
Difference number 5, broadcast.
This is also a big difference because I'm gonna say it straight out, and it's also true. Everyone know this. We get more Super Sentai content in a year than we do for Power Rangers.
Super Sentai seasons yearly usually get 50 episodes, while Power Rangers has had 22 episode seasons for more than a decade, making 2 seasons for one series usually, with the latest season being only 10 episodes long, while in the 2000s and late 90s, they averaged about 40 episodes a season. And Power Rangers is also balanced between multiple networks like Fox, ABC Family, Toon Disney, to ABC Kids, Nickelodeon, the CW, Nicktoons, and ultimately Netflix. While Super Sentai has only stayed on one network, TV Asahi, through its whole time.
And Super Sentai teams are also guaranteed a movie, a summer movie, and like I said, those 2 crossover movies, one with the previous team, and they'll come back for the next team too. There's also countless web specials that add lore to the shows for exclusive side stories with certain characters, or just funny, like what if moments as well.
And in recent years, some of its older shows have been having full-on anniversary return movies such as the Go Kaijers, Go Ranger, Aba Ranger, and for the cases of Hurricaneger and Deca Rangers, movies for their 10th and 20th anniversaries.
The reason of all this is because Sentai is a powerhouse in entertainment over in Japan, and people are just more receptive to having so much stuff happening. Like, there are straight up stage shows happening all over the country for Super Sentai. They would even have these crossovers with different teams too that would only happen on a stage show.
And meanwhile, Power Rangers just focuses on the toy and the show. And it's a shame because generally speaking, there was a lot of approval for Once and Always, the 30th anniversary series from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
So maybe one day, maybe they'll realize there'll be more room for stuff like this.
Difference 6, censorship.
In terms of censorship, Power Rangers Super Sentai has had a long history, more specifically with Power Rangers. And that ultimately ends up to cultural differences. As Super Sentai is a mature show, at least in the eyes of a Western audience, stuff's gotta be changed when you bring it to America.
And that include elements such as blood, foul language, alcohol usage, and even character deaths, reflecting Japan's less restrictive approach to children's media, which for the eyes of American fans, and especially soccer moms, it makes the show seem like it's more for adults. With the weapons used in the show are often depicted with realistic projectiles like gun bullets, missiles, and shurikens. And meanwhile, Power Rangers, produced in the United States and airing alongside family shows like Animaniacs, House of Mouse, and SpongeBob SquarePants, they gotta adhere to stricter regulations, and it completely avoids blood, foul language, and alcohol altogether.
No beer in my Power Rangers? How could they? How could they do this to us?
And even then, the show would still be controversial and have news segments talking about how the show would be too violent for kids. Character deaths in the series are rare and usually handled with care, like with Gem and Gem on RPM, as instead of dying normally, they are simply deleted from the database. And the original Sentai footage is often edited or omitted to fit these standards, as these long-range gun attacks are typically altered to use Star Wars-like laser beams or entirely different effects to reduce perceived violence.
And there are many different examples of the censorship throughout the years. They gotta remove a shotgun from a monster, or instead of drinking alcohol to grow big, bro gotta drink a science potion, bro. I am the glug 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 glug. I did a whole video about this on censorship, so go check it out if you haven't already. But I will say, my favorite censorship is when a monster blows up an empty building. Like, you're attacking a city and you're gonna destroy the empty building. Not really good monster, don't you think?
I hate empty buildings!
Difference 7, music.
Nothing speaks to a show like this without the music that we hear in every episode, in the opening, in the ending, during the fight scenes, during the morph sequences, and Power Rangers and Super Sentai both shine in their own regards. Also, did you guys know that you can stream Super Sentai music on streaming if you're on the West?
Not sponsored, of course, but recent seasons like King Ogre have albums of themes, instrumentals, and insert songs from the show on streaming that you can listen to in America.
But one thing to note that I figured out is that they removed the cover arts, the original cover arts, to remove any depiction of a ranger, since in America Hasbro owns all that, so you just get some text. But there are many different albums on Spotify and Apple Music or wherever you listen to music of opening and ending themes for each Super Sentai series. And you know what else is on Spotify and Apple Music? My band, Five Loco. Have you guys heard my band before? I make music sometimes. You should give it a listen. You know the link in the description, right? We dropped an album last year. You should listen to it. Just saying.
In America, the only streaming songs we have for Power Rangers are with Cosmic Fury, Dino Charge, and Samurai. with other seasons not having official releases or full version of the song out.
Once and Always was very lucky to have a soundtrack come out because it was made by the great Ron Wasserman, which was the mastermind who made the original music back in Mighty Morphin. They brought him back for the special. Also, I will say, luckily enough, we got a Cosmic Fury album, a soundtrack on streaming too. So this is pretty big for Power Rangers because, you know, we have all this Super Sentai music, but we can't watch Super Sentai in America legally, but we can listen to the music. But Power Rangers in America, you can hear the music. I just want to hear the morph themes for SPD.
Stop. Wrap it up. But back to Ron Wasserman, he did the heavy metal theme for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers back in the day, with him being the helm at the first 3 seasons of the show, before leaving Saban and doing some smaller music roles until in space, doing his final theme there, while also coming back in the 2000s during the Disney era for the SPD theme, as well as having a Mystic Force one that really never dropped.
I thought was better, by the way. Power Rangers, Mystic Force, go, go.
But the recurring rock is what separated Power Rangers music from Super Sentai music. Super Sentai is usually mixed between J-pop and J-rock, with older Sentais having a jazzy show tune feel to them, with the songs portraying more to the feel of show's themes.
And Super Sentai, of course, famously has ending music so that the Rangers could dance at the end of the show. A dramatic moment just happened, but we're all gonna dance. We're so happy, and I don't know a theme to make a joke out of that. But also, I love that Super Sentai also does themes for the 6th Ranger. Like, come on. Hopefully Power Rangers can take a page from Super Sentai and just drop more music. Drop the album. We need the damn album.
Where is the album?
We need the damn album.
Difference number 8, toys.
The toys are, of course, a big part of the show because everyone wants the big bucks. We have these 30 minutes of your undivided attention to the show, and you know damn well we're about to sell you some toys in those commercial breaks. But as you may have guessed, there is of course a difference between the toys for Power Rangers and the toys for Super Sentai.
Super Sentai toys are produced by Bandai of Japan, and they often prioritize show-accurate, intricate designs, well-painted morphers, weapons, and megazords that contain a wide range of features, as well as high-quality materials catering to both children and adult collectors, especially when you take into account the Memorial line of toys that are meant for adult creators, including swords that are an actual size that you can see in the show.
Yeah, it's crazy because when Power Rangers drops a sword weapon, it looks like this. Like, that's a pinky blade.
The toys frequently include detailed transformation sequences, with these hefty Zords making for complex combining mechanisms, as well as electronic features like lights and sounds. And there have been, of course, gimmick items in the 2010s that have been at the forefront and can be sold anywhere where gashapon machines are at.
And if you don't know what those are, call it a little vending machine for a surprise toy. You put that anywhere. You can only do that in America with a Happy Meal. And I don't think Saban ever did that. I think Megaforce, they dropped cards, but that was the extent of it.
There are also plenty of figures to go around, including the SH Figure Art series, which comes with the best paint and accuracy for Sentai toys.
And in comparison, Power Ranger toys are of course made by Hasbro, the people who own it, but previously they were made by Bandai of America. And generally they would emphasize durability and a simplified play feature.
That means less paint, less screen accuracy, and more toys to have fun with and throw around and maybe take a bite of, or two if you're lucky.
You know, this is, I see a toy and I see this rubber thing, I'm like, I want to eat it. I want to eat it.
While they often retain core designs from their Super Sentai counterparts, some elements are modified to meet safety standards and cost considerations in the American market. For a good chunk of the beginning for Power Rangers, they would actually use the molds for the Super Sentai Zords and just drop them in America. But it has proved to be quite expensive for all the features they have. So they remove a lot of those electronics and lights and generally make the toys a lot smaller as well compared to their Japanese counterparts, just to keep those prices super low.
And additionally, Power Rangers may introduce unique items and features in many toys that in Japan, they're just not going too crazy about. I just did a whole video about that too. I love plugging. I love plugging the videos, man. Toys Clues Power Rangers. Go watch it.
Whether it's new Rangers, Dragon Rangers, or Car Rangers, Americans love the variations between many of these toys, all aligning with their Western taste and play patterns.
But there's of course adult collector lines as well, such as the Lightning Collection, which for a great low price, higher, I would say double, a basic action figure, you can get better articulation, better paint, painted weapons, and overall just a great scale for a figure.
There's also been various roleplay items too, like morphers and sometimes cosplay like helmets. But fans also love Bandai's previous Legacy line, which beyond figures that seem to always have so many muscles, like why? Why the muscles? Their Megazords were top of the line with die-cast metals and screen-accurate stickers, making them usually the best, even in comparison to Japan. And there are of course the Legacy Morphers, which ended up being used on screen multiple times in Power Rangers Future.
There's also been little cute things like a Legacy coin collection for the Power Rangers movie, Legacy tiny little helmets, and Legacy communicators, you know, beep, beep, boop, beep, beep. I wish I got one.
So whether you're a Power Rangers or a Sentai fan, there will always be a toy for you, and these differences make great toys at any price point or collector. Difference 9, Uniqueness.
Regardless of their differences, there are of course some things that Power Rangers has done that Super Sentai has not done. And if they have done it, they did it because of Power Rangers.
It starts in Mighty Morphin, where we have Ninjetti mode for their new ninja powers, as well as the metallic armor. Let's not speak of that. There are also exclusive bikes, like how everyone got a Shark Cycle instead of just 3 in Kaku Ranger, as well as many different vehicles throughout the years, like the Jungle Strike Cruiser, the Mega Morph Cycle, the Hovertech Cycle, and of course, the Wild Force Rider, the toy-turned-TV bike that saved the world from Serpentera in Forever Red. Power Rangers was also the one who introduced the Battleizer to the world, a final form of sorts for the Red Ranger back in 1997 with Power Rangers in Space. And it wasn't until 2006 in the Magi Ranger vs. Deca Ranger special where we see Japan use the Battleizer from Power Rangers SPD in this special, giving it its own story and transformation sequence.
And speaking of SPD, we got our first girl Red Ranger. Hell yeah, A-Squad Red. She was evil though, which Sentai just flat out didn't see until Shinkenger when they had their own. And then we had our first Red Ranger again. And then again.
We take those. And here's one that we can take for sure. The first crossover between Masked Rider and Super Sentai. Like yeah, they could reference each other in some of the earlier shows back in the day, as well as being in photos together for promotion, but an actual crossover, I'm pretty sure Power Rangers did it first. Cause that didn't happen in a big time sense in Japan until Shinkenger was invaded by Kamen Rider Decade.
And the great part of all this is that Power Rangers is in collaboration with the Japanese creators to introduce new elements into the show, like the Titanium Ranger or the Spirit Rangers, fully American original Power Rangers.
And now Power Rangers has an all-new costume set and team with Cosmic Fury, using inspiration for Ryu's Soldier for the helmets and Q Ranger for the Zord motif.
And of course on the flip side, you know, Super Sentai has done stuff that Power Rangers also hasn't done.
Whether it's an evil ninja girls team, or multiple seasons of the show. But there's also been one-off Rangers like Deca Gold, Gosei Green, Nin Green, and Real Soul Brown, as well as Zords and Megazords that are not in Power Rangers like the Engine Dai Shogun, which was only released as a toy in the USA. And even in recent scenes like Dino Fury and Cosmic Fury, there are mechs like the Real Soul Gatai Kishi Ryuzen, or the Kojishi Voyager that never made their Power Rangers debut. Difference number 10, Legacy.
Now when it comes to the legacy of these two shows, they are quite different culturally, but as a whole for Tokusatsu and the whole genre, they're locked in.
Super Sentai has had a huge cultural impact in Japan, alongside Kamen Rider having a legacy of innovation in the Tokusatsu genre, as well as maintaining their continuous run in the public eye, in the future being parodied by many different animes, as well as having their own museum full of suits in them. And to differentiate, Power Rangers brings the essence of what makes Sentai good, and forms it to make it have a massive international popularity, but more notably becoming an iconic part of 90s pop culture with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, totally influencing how foreign media can be adapted into Western markets. But in some ways, Power Rangers is more popular than Super Sentai, at least in the West and the Americas as a continent, with Sentai taking the element of Asian markets and even Hawaii. And it's even at a point where in South Korea, they will get a Super Sentai season dubbed in Korean but titled as a Power Rangers show. This was of course due to them already dubbing Power Rangers in the 90s, but Disney raising the prices for international releases, hence them moving to Sentai. But this still goes on to this day, with stuff like Power Rangers Zenkaiger, Power Rangers Dawn Brothers, and Power Rangers Kingdom Force.
You can tell that there's some creativity in some names and some just, oh, come on, you just put the Sentai name in there.
However, Super Sentai has slowly been making its way to the US, with DVD and streaming releases of 90s and 2000 shows, along with some special toy releases throughout the years, with Power Rangers also coming to Japan via various dubs like SPD, Mystic Force, and Samurai, and sometimes they would just bring the whole cast back to dub over the show.
It's kind of like meta, you know, you're dubbing yourself. In a way, it's confusing.
Overall, Power Rangers and Super Sentai has made a legacy of their own. With the history of Tokusatsu, the toys, and the cultural impact, we can see that even though they have their different past and presents and futures, the meaning of the shows have stayed strong with the people. Super Sentai was the father, while Power Rangers was the son that showed the rest of the world why we love Tokusatsu. Together, they have inspired generations of fans, fostered a global community, and demonstrated to the world that there is a universal appeal for a rainbow-colored spandex team of heroes fighting for justice, making them important parts of popular culture across the globe.
And that, everybody, is Power Rangers and Super Sentai. The differences, the similarities, pull them all together, and we got a show and franchises and a genre that we love from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I love making it. I hope you guys liked it as well. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Dino and Foyo. I'm also on Instagram, Not Foyo. Have a good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you're at. And of course, as always, stay awesome, everybody.